All right, let's jump right into it. Today, we're going to break down a classic IELTS essay topic. We'll go through all the arguments, the structure, and even some great examples you can use to nail that high score on academic selection in schools.
So take a look at this prompt. Notice how it asks you to discuss both sides and give your opinion. This is a super common structure in IELTS. It means you absolutely have to look at both arguments fairly before you jump in with your own conclusion. Let's get into how to do that.
Okay, first up, let's build the case for the first viewpoint. We're going to dive into all the reasons for what's often called streaming. That is, grouping students together based on how they're doing academically.
So, the main argument here is all about making the classroom more efficient. The thinking goes, if everyone in the room is at a similar level, the teacher can design lessons that are perfectly paced, not too fast for some and not painfully slow for others.
And this has some really clear benefits, right? You avoid that one-size-fits-all approach. This means the advanced students aren't just sitting there bored, while you're also taking the pressure off the ones who need a bit more time to get it. The ultimate goal is to let every single student reach their full potential.
And here's a perfect, real-world example you can drop into your essay. Think about the gifted and talented programs in the U.S. Using specific examples like this is exactly what IELTS examiners love to see. It shows you can back up what you're saying with actual evidence.
All right, the second big argument for selection is a bit bigger than just the classroom. It's really about the kind of society we're trying to build. The idea here is that selective schools create an environment that's all about rewarding hard work and pushing everyone to do their absolute best.
So this system is kind of seen as a training ground for what comes after school. The argument is that it gets the nation's sharpest minds ready for future challenges by creating this competitive, high-pressure atmosphere where being excellent is just the norm.
And hey, here's another solid piece of evidence for your essay. People often point to the selective grammar schools in the UK. Why? Well, they're often cited as proof that this model really works at finding and nurturing top talent that then goes on to do really important things in society.
Okay, so we've built a pretty strong case for selection. But now it's time to flip the script and look at the other side of the coin. The argument for teaching all students together in the same classroom, no matter their ability level.
The first argument against selection isn't really about academics. It's about society. It's the idea that schools shouldn't be creating different tracks for people. Instead, they should be like mini versions of our diverse society, with all sorts of people learning together.
At the heart of this argument is a really big concern. Separating kids early on might create an elite group that has a hard time understanding people from different walks of life. And at the same time, it can really hurt the confidence of students who get labeled less able. So the goal here is to build a society that's more tolerant and connected.
And just like we had an example for the first view, here is the perfect counterexample. Finland is such a powerful case study. Having a strong counterpoint like this is fantastic for your essay. It shows the examiner you've really thought about the topic from all angles, and that's key for a high score.
So, the second big idea for mixed ability classrooms is that this diversity actually makes for a richer, more effective learning environment for everybody, not just for some students, but for all of them.
I mean, think about it for a second. When a stronger student has to explain a tricky concept to a classmate, they actually end up understanding it better themselves. It completely changes the classroom from a competition into a collaborative community where students are actually learning from each other.
And this is a fantastic little detail to remember for your essay. It shows that ability isn't just one thing. A student might not be a math whiz, but they could be an amazing leader or a brilliant organizer. A mixed ability classroom gives those other kinds of talents a chance to really shine.
So when you put these two philosophies side by side, you can see they're not just different techniques. They're built on fundamentally different goals. One sees the classroom as a training ground to create top performers. The other sees it as a model for a healthy, functioning society.
All right, you've explored both sides of the debate. Now for the grand finale, the crucial part of the essay, presenting your own well-supported opinion. This is where you bring it all together.
Now, to make sure your conclusion really hits the mark, just follow this simple three-step plan. First, give a quick nod to both arguments. Then, boom, state your own position. No doubt about it. Finally, and this is the most important part, explain why you think that, using some of the points we've just talked about.
So that's the final question I'll leave you with. In this kind of essay, there's no single right answer. The best scores go to the writers who can really think through both sides and then argue for their own perspective in a convincing way. So what do you think? Which path is really the best for students? Your answer to that is the heart and soul of your essay.